Paul going to be here, or is it table going to fall this week?
The audio?
It's a little bit unsettling.
Oh.
Turn it down. 68 might be a
Perfectly comfortable.
Listen, this is in City Hall every day.
It's 50-50. Well, that would be too cold.
I just say I don't care. How are you guys?
Good.
Coming out on a rainy night.
Yeah.
You think the sky was
Yeah, the
purple?
sky's purple.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know why the sky's purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
You know, really low clouds, obviously. So they could be just the streetlights.
That's what we were wondering if something was lit up.
It's probably the softball lights.
Yeah.
Is
that
That's
what
what I
it
would
is?
think.
You,
It's gotta be,
and then
it's gotta be
Yeah.
lights.
sky, it's really weird.
That was really
Yeah.
purple.
It's the first time that ever happened, I thought aliens got
That's like,
It's gotta be from like some structure. Maybe
Santa Claus.
depends on what it is.
Nobody on.
Because if the clouds are low, it'll be.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome visitors and guests to the City Council meeting for the City of Mount Vernon. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I've got one item to note that J11, the change order did not come in for that. It was home improvements. Change order number 2, which is item J11. So with that,
Yeah, I'll move to approve the agenda with that change.
thank you, Stephanie. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda with that one adjustment. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is communications. If there's anyone here to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, now's the time to go up to the podium and say your piece. And then I can welcome at this time the scouts. So thanks for coming and showing up for this meeting. Anybody else here to speak to anything as far as open public comment? The rest of you are here for particular agenda items, so I think I'll close that part of the meeting and go to the consent agenda. We just have one item on it. Minutes from the last meeting.
I would move approval of the consent agenda with the amended minutes we received later this afternoon.
Point made. Thank you. Scott and Mark. So moved and seconded to approve the amended version of the minutes that we got this afternoon with one typo change, basically the date change. If we are ready to vote on the consent agenda, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the question came up earlier, but Paul is in South Carolina, I believe, so that's why he's not here. No public hearings. Ordinance approval amendments. We got a second reading here. Amending chapter 46, minors, Mount Vernon Code of Ordinances. And staff has told us that there's been no other comments to City Hall about this. Is there any discussion, or we're ready to move forward on the second reading, or staff want to more to add?
So this was a cleaned up version of the second, of the
The
first.
changes for both like ordinances were made.
It's on that in.
Yeah, okay. With that clarification, I would move approval of ordinance 10-7-2024B.
Second that. Scott Craig. Move the second to move forward. Second reading of this particular ordinance, and we are ready for a roll call. Marcia.
West? Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
That second reading passes on that ordinance, and on to this next reading. Ordinance 11-4-2024A, second reading as well. Staff has mentioned that there are no further comments to them about it. No more written.
All right. There's nothing else. I move to approve ordinance, the second reading, ordinance 11-4-2024A, in chapter 165 zoning regulations, Article 302.
Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Moved and seconded to move forward on that second reading of that ordinance. And for no other questions, Russia, it is up to you.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Engel.
Yes. And that second reading passes. Moving on to section G, resolutions for approval. First item is certifying the county auditor the TIF debt for the calendar year 2024, fiscal 2026. I think we'll turn it over to Mr. Rasmussen.
So, the tip that certification is a handout that looks just like this. We did certify two new bonds, the Glen Street and then, for the most part, the pool. So we have to certify that total debt to the county to continue to collect tip on those items. Your tip ask this year, if you look at city tip form 2, it's basically a summary sheet that looks just like this.
Page 3.
Thank you.
The total tip ask this year is $1,110,346. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an anomaly because you will see the GO Series 2024 Glen Street and the pool listed twice. One is for fiscal year 26 and one is for fiscal year 25. That's because we can go back and the interest charge that we have to pay for fiscal year 25. So you will not see all 4 of these next year. You will just see a normal tip payment moving forward. So if you remove the anomaly, we're at $969,354, which, if you remember correctly, I said we would be right around $1 million up from our $750 that we've been hovering around. And this does not obviously include the $200,000 for the child care. We can't actually issue that debt or try to capture that debt until we have some sort of 28 agreement with it. That is still hanging out there. And then, of course, we have the 2 subdivisions, Springmill Heights and Stonebrook. And we basically capture whatever tip dollars are available out of both of those subdivisions, and then I give you that spreadsheet in kind of that March, April time. So that's the first part of this. The second part that Spirit Financial usually does for us is this kind of a TIF pro forma or a bond pro forma. We currently have 8 outstanding notes. We have 1 that will fall off this year, another 1 that will fall off next year, so we will down to 6. 2 of them are quite old, 2013 and 2014, those were both done prior to me coming to the city. So I like where we're at in regards to our debt capacity, and if you go all the way back to the green sheets, that will show our borrowing capacity. So as I stated earlier, and I think I cautiously told you this because I thought it was a typo, our property valuation, our 100% property valuation went from $337 million to $418 million. That took our statutory GO debt from $16.8 million to $20.9 million. So,
You're not saying that added $5 million toward debt,
no, that gives us the
$5 million
ability.
capacity.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
So
wanted
cities
to
are limited to 5% of that 100% value.
Right,
So
right, okay.
keep in mind that of that $418 million, not all of that is taxable. That is just if you added up all of the value, that's what it is. The city is allowed to borrow 5%, up to 5%, that's our cap. But in today's world, where we've got rising prices and things like that, to have our debt, our statutory debt limit go from 16.8 to 20.9 is huge. And what that really does for us is you know, we lop off 20% of that, so that it's not required, but I keep that as a rainy day type scenario.
We call that the derecho.
Yeah, so, you know, after taking on the pool debt, that almost $5 million worth of debt this year, we were down to, you know, 487,000 of usable, what I'll consider usable debt. Now we're, after this increase and then our payment, we're back up to 5 million of usable debt. This is important because we have, you know, potential projects along Highway 1 that we want to take a look at doing, and some other things. So, you know, it was a solid year in that regard. I wish that would translate to tax dollars, but it doesn't. So,
So does this speed up the potential timeframe on the pool? Theoretically.
So, I would say yes. I mean, theoretically, could, but I also would tell you that Highway 1, downtown streetscape, uptown streetscape.
Thank you.
She's gonna say it right.
Childcare, all of the items are sitting out there with it. So hopefully, at least for the next 10 years, the renovations to the existing pool will suffice.
But yeah, it's very exciting, particularly because roads don't get better year to year. And unless we do something about childcare, it's not going to get better year to year, so. It's exciting.
Chip Russell's discussion with the fact that before leaving, Chris and I did talk about Maggie from Spear Financial already has three other groups in this meeting night, as other consultants she's talking to. So that's why she's not here representing Spear.
I was going to hold it against her.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure you don't.
And, you know, the bad part about TIP is the only thing that, you know, the state does for us is we are actually certifying in December, we have to certify by December 1, 2024, our TIF debt for fiscal year 2026. So it adds to the complication because number one, it's not on our fiscal year, it's now on a calendar year. And then it's for debt basically that we can't capture until July 1, 25. So it does cause us to think a lot ahead if we are planning to utilize TIF for any payments. But these are the sheets, that report, the colored pages, is basically for you to approve. These are the sheets that will get approved with this resolution tonight and certified to impact.
Chris, what did you say that page 3 total was? It's not on the bottom of this particular page, it's 1 million something.
It is $1,110,346.
Thank you. Is it listed somewhere else that I missed?
No, it doesn't automatically add it to the state form. I know it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about this TIF document for Chris?
We just have it certified, or we just vote to have it submitted?
You would vote to approve the resolution, which would approve the certification.
I would vote to approve resolution 1-18-2024A certified and for the auditor and TIF debt.
I would second with an amendment, it's 11-18, I guess.
November 18, 2024.
Craig and Scott on that, please. It's a motion on the floor to approve resolution, the item, the first one here, certifying the TIF debt. And if there are no further questions, I think we're ready for a roll call vote. Marcia?
Engel,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Andreessen.
Yes.
That resolution will move on this time. Moving to the next one, approving the annual urban renewal report for fiscal year 2024. Again, there were no comments to city staff.
No, and this report is also due by December 1. This report was born out of the state legislature attempt to change SIF rules. And instead of actually changing the rules, they gave themselves time to kind of study it. I think this has been 10 years now, but almost 10 years that this report has been in existence. So I don't know if it will lead to any actual changes or not, but essentially all of our TIP information, our urban renewal reports are put together statewide and then given to the legislature in a master report. So this is essentially telling the state how the TIP dollars are being used and what it's being used for. I would say 10, 12 years ago, there was concern that TIP dollars were used to be, build City Hall and do things that they didn't feel were part of the intent. But I haven't heard anything as of late. Property taxes went to the forefront of my TIP lately, so cross my fingers, but it's true.
Any other comments or questions? Move forward,
I move approval of resolution 11-18-2024B, approving the urban renewal report for fiscal year 24.
Scott.
Second.
Scott Mark. Resolution on the floor, regarding the urban renewal report for fiscal year 2024. If you're ready to vote on that, Marcia, please.
Rose,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
That resolution passes. Next one is for the completion of the 2024 business third reading overlay project. And that is drawing to a close financially here.
And under good.
Seems like it went well,
Yeah.
quickly, and under budget. And under-
Total project cost was $740,406.75. This was just over $41,000 less than the original bid. That has to do with quantities. We don't get charged obviously for the quantities that we end up using.
5% better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would move approval of resolution 11-18-2024C, accepting the final work report for business 30 improvements.
Second?
Go ahead. Craig and Stephanie on that. Close up that business 30 overlay project. I think went very well, went quickly, and kept at least a lane open for much of the process. There was zero citizen complaint that I got on it, so that's good. We're ready to vote on that. Marcia, can you call the roll?
West,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
That resolution passes. Another project we're closing up on is the Highway 1 storm sewer work. The preface to the Highway 1 state work the next two summers. B&K is signing off on it.
Yeah, this total project cost was $23,091. This was to essentially place cameras in all of the storm sewer along Highway 1. They had to do that to ensure that nothing needed to be upgraded, changed, or fixed with the Highway 1 reconstruction. The storms will be affected. They're not doing any sewer or water work, but because of how road construction and they're doing that full reconstruction work, the storms will be impacted, so.
Do we have a report from this yet, or?
Not as of yet. It'll be incorporated into the design documents, which aren't necessarily complete yet. We have an agreement with the DOT, but we don't have a signed written contract on Highway 1.
I will move to approve resolution 11-18-2024D in the amount of $23,091 for the project known as the Highway 1 Storm Sewer CCTV.
Thank you. Second that.
Stephanie and Craig. Motion on the floor to approve the next resolution regarding the Highway 1 storm sewer CCTV project. No further comments or questions, staff? Ready to vote on it, Marcia?
Anderson,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hinkle.
Yes.
That resolution passes. Got to close that up. Next one is, we're getting down the road of the voluntary annexation of property set forth within application for voluntary annexation north of town.
I hope this is the last time you consider this.
The first 3 times we're in the
No. So there are 2 processes to annexation. One, if you're isolated off by yourself. The second is if you're within what is considered another city's urbanized area. Because we share a boundary with Lisbon, even though we have agreed kind of where the line of demarcation is between the 2 cities, we still have to go through the long process for annexation, which will require us to go to the city development board and make our case there before it can be approved.
Are the Commons and Milwaukee's sticking with us on this?
They are, thankfully. They're really good about it.
So is anything, I mean, nothing's functionally changed, we just need to get approval from.
Yeah, it's just the process that we have to go through. It is
Okay.
a lot more work on these tests.
Excellent.
Time frame for that? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Is there a time frame for that at all?
Once it gets to the development board, probably 3 or 4 months.
I'm not a huge fan of the skip to the end option on resolutions, but this feels like one where if it's an option, we could.
Oh, this is one and done.
In that case, I will happily move 11-18-2024E.
I'll second.
Got Stephanie. Moving second to move forward again on the voluntary annexation north of town. And if we're ready for a vote.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And that resolution passes. No mayoral proclamations, no old business. Motion for approval. Got a claim for us that was sent out this afternoon. Just updated one. Any questions of staff on that one? Or
I would move approval of the claims list.
and Mark. Moving second to approve the claims list as presented. If there are no other questions, all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? Claims list passes. Next one is the site plan approval of 521st Street Southeast. So after this meeting.
So this is the old bowling alley site. They're kind of office / construction office condominiums. This area is limited industrial. And so P&Z has reviewed, they've required a fairly decent amount of screening along the First Street side. But other than that, they have recommended approval of the site plan.
Any questions? Be here if you have other questions.
Yeah, I would say the only thing when you make a motion is to make a motion to approve what, based upon P&Z's recommendation.
For conditional permit.
Yeah, I appreciate the movement on it, and it's nice to see something happen with the property. So unless there are questions or concerns, I would need approval of the site, the conditional use, whatever, for the site plan approval for 521st Street South.
Well said.
I'll second that.
Move the second to approve site plan approval for the 521st Street Southeast project. And thanks to planning and zoning, thanks to the owner, Doug for being here, and the lead for working this out. This is a voice vote, so if we're ready to approve that, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Look forward to seeing progress out there. And,
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Doug.
do you have a time frame on it, or?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
Weather's a big factor, so we'll see how it holds out and how soon I can get my contractor on it. So,
Okay, we're good.
thank you.
Thanks for your
Thank you,
work
Doug.
on it.
Okay. Third item is discussion consideration of the LBC expansion options and preliminary design proposal, OPN Architects. Chris, you want to start us out there?
Yeah, we've been, I think we've been talking childcare solutions for the better part of the last 3.5 years. And a lot of ideas have been floated to both the school and the city and Cornell and anybody that would, come to the table to hopefully be a part of the solution. A number of staff, the mayor and I traveled to Mahaska County for, I believe it's Mahaska County YMCA, but it's located in Oskaloosa. That facility houses a daycare. It was an issue in Oskaloosa as well. They have even larger employers than we do, but they were considered a daycare desert, and still, I think, are considered a desert. They still don't have enough. But long story short, after the pool conversation and the fact that we knew, or we now know that the potential pool expansion in the future or rebuild isn't going to include the LBC. I sat down with the mayor and said, well, what if the city could either go on a project on their own, partner with the school. Of course, our location with the campus would be a logical move. So fast forward to today, I've spoken to OPN, and for $19,000, they are willing to put kind of a pro forma together on what an expansion would look like. My issue is this, I think, based on square footage, I can give you a rough number on what that would look at, but without them going through the analysis and putting the state code requirements in, I couldn't tell you the number of kids that we'd be able to service at this location.
Just how many did the Oskaloosa ones serve? I'm just curious. No?
20 classrooms, wasn't it?
I want to say there are 20 classrooms. There's 3 different needs.
Wow.
Whoa.
But here's the thing. The LBC, this expansion isn't necessarily going to solve all of our issues. I still think that we are looking to, continue conversations with the school district, and I don't want to say anything that would put them on the spot, but those conversations will continue in the future as well. The challenge is always the youngest, newborn to 3-year-old. I don't even know if we continue conversations with the school, if that would be something that they would entertain. It's just a lot of space and typically not a lot of money. So I stated this 3.5 years ago, and we're moving forward. The problem with daycare is the fact that it's going to be somewhat subsidized. Whether or not we have somebody come in and run this and give them the space, essentially, that's the way that these are going to work. But in stating that, in our conversations, if this addition could only house 50 children and the addition is $4 million, then you can do the math, and it's probably not worth pursuing. $19,000 will tell us, I think, where we stand in future conversations. So, long story short, that's kind of how we got there.
I'm sorry, Chris, is this more than just an architectural overview and study, or will it also include different options for how it's run, by whom is it run, the kitchen, where the food comes from, that kind of thing? It's just the build-out.
This is the build-out side of things. As far as,
I wish it would be more.
well, here's what I could tell you. It will give us an opportunity to sit down and have further discussion. So, Matt has worked with other districts before, and he's got some ideas.
Matt Leeson.
Matt Leeson, sorry.
The same is true with you.
But, so I think the goal here is just to see what that square footage would look like, and how much it would cost, what the design would be, and then, to top that off, my expectation is not necessarily to build an addition that would be all classrooms. I would like to get additional space that can be translated and used by the LBC as well. So there's some possibility for grant funding for an addition if we decide to go down this pathway, but I need to be clear. One, I'm not excited about, and I told Grant, I'm not excited about being in the daycare business, and I don't necessarily want to be. So even if we went on a project like this by ourselves, I would still try to find somebody to operate it. As far as
Understood.
I think that as Superintendent Lehman and the school board continues to discern whether or not it's a possibility for them to move forward with daycare, it would be helpful to have this study done, though, because there's already been pen to paper in very casual ways that were done by Dr. Batenhorst, for example, and so they're beginning to collect information, and I think that they'll be more informed with the decision.
this is the one location, if the city were to come to the table outside of some monetary amount that we can offer.
We've already committed some dollars.
So,
So just for clarification, this would be the northwest corner of the LBC, correct? That lawn in front?
all of the grass
Yep.
where the pool expansion had been discussed.
And then I know in some form a fourth building is is part of the plans for, excuse me, for the school. And if daycare were to become a part of that, and we have gone forward with this, would this 19,000 cover, and here's what you guys could do with this later on? Or
So I guess I want to be clear. Even if the school district went along with the fourth building, unless they made that entire fourth building a daycare, we're still going to be in need of space. So
There's
my
still over 100 people
expectation
on the wait
is,
list.
Yeah.
my expectation is no. Even if the school district does choose to move forward with the fourth building at some point in the near future, number one, I still don't think that we would be serving the same populace. They have, again, and I don't want to speak for the school district, because I don't, that's not my background, but there's preschool dollars, and there's other things for 3-year-olds and above that would probably make more sense for the school district to key in on. Babies, toddlers probably don't. And so even if they move forward with the fourth building, I don't think that entire breadth of what people are seeking for daycare options would be served. But really, like I said, whether or not that space, if we use half of that square footage for daycare opportunities, if that space serves less than 50 kids, then I don't know if we can justify it unless we got a grant to fund 75% of the building expansion.
Several items. We're not speaking out of turn here, but this was a discussion of the work session the school board had about 3 Mondays ago, so they are aware of it. It was a meeting that nobody from the public attended, it was a work session, so they are on top of it. This is probably was delayed a little bit just because of the transition in superintendents between Batenhorst and Matt, through no fault of anybody else, but it just kind of slowed up the process. Challenge of space. Cornell wanted to engage, they don't have space. We don't have any sitting space right now. School district obviously doesn't have any sitting space, and depending upon the last discussion with Matt Lehman, I mean, they're 4 to 5 years out from having the bonding capacity to do it on the building. Even at the minimum, $4 million, but probably more likely going to be $8 million before to do a legitimate sized building there. So once we made the decision 6 months ago to keep the pool in the northwest quadrant of town, which is absolutely the right thing to do, we need to serve all parts of the community, and that was key, keeping it there with the park and with the sports fields out there. So once that decision was made that we're not going to attach it to the LBC. That freed up that space. Another thing that freed up that space, quite frankly, is the attitude of Sarah and Matt at the LBC for a willingness to engage in this whole conversation. That was not a pleasant conversation. I don't think that Chris was expecting it to be, but and recognize
It was pleasant.
Matt and Sarah now.
I expected it to be a lot worse.
Yeah. So, but that made the process a little bit easier. But
Well, I will say I'm really glad to see it, and thank you for your willingness to talk about it, because the need is so great, and I think this is money well spent. We don't know what we don't know, and we'll have more information after we complete this study.
And this will take a look at the parking needs and everything.
Yeah, which I can already tell you.
It's going to be a lot to work through.
Yeah, the parking lot wasn't obviously designed to take on another, I don't know, probably 8, 9, 10,000 square feet, whatever it ends up being. Now, I think, to be honest with you, I had expected LBC staff to roll their eyes and look at me like I was crazy. They were actually more excited about it than I was. And this was the first time ever that the mayor said, "You give me a headache some days."
as
So,
Chris first brought that up, I got a migraine on it. I couldn't get my head around it. It was right after the big board sent out its letter last February about the financial situation of the school district. And there will be people from the public that will question, is this in our lane? But as long as we're involved with governance for the common good, I think we need to engage in this. And whether it's housing or whether it's daycare to support the community, the common good, I think we need to engage here. We've stepped up in the past, and right now, we may have some resources that the school doesn't have, or that Cornell doesn't have right now. So this is our time to engage and step up.
Well, and to kind of piggyback on that too, I feel very confident in this council and in your guys' ability to kind of steer this in the correct way.
yeah, I think that, this is full circle. I always talk about, the potential for catalyst and how, one development can spur, another. Again, not looking to grow at the rate or speed of Florida and North Liberty. However, some growth is needed in order for us to continue, to sustain valuation increases. But you can't convince families with young children to move to a community that doesn't have a daycare option. Unless they're working in Cedar Rapids and their daycare is on their way there, that's a problem. So going back to the school district, if we can't convince young families with young kids to move here, they're going to see or continue to see number issues in enrollment because they're capturing, kids that are coming in middle school, which is great. It just doesn't do anything for that overall value. So looking at a problem holistically like this, like I said, if I'm being truthful, this doesn't excite me. It would be like you coming to me and saying, let's buy a golf course and build another pool. I'm not anxious about running a daycare or providing space. However, it is a need that the citizens have brought forward consistently for the last 3.5 years and probably long before that.
And documented in the survey that Lori helped us with in May, where 34 businesses and 352 parents and guardians said that 75% of them said that a new child care facility would be a good investment in the community. So.
And I have a funding, we have local office sales tax, so this 19,000 has a funding mechanism that readily built in, so.
Well, I feel for these parents. It's a huge source of stress, and I was fortunate enough to have that, and I want to make it better for our community.
The partners that were involved with this OPN are the same two that were, Principal Justin Bishop and then Matthew Stewart was
Yeah.
our graduate of 1996.
It sounds like this isn't something we vote on, it's just discussion, and so.
No, it's not the vote. It would be
Okay.
to approve up to 19,000.
Well, I would move to approve contracting with OPN on the childcare study, an expansion of the LBC,
Second.
$19,000. $570 there?
I believe it's not to exceed 19.
Correct.
19.5 really, if you take
With
the 500 expenses.
Okay.
Probably an implied obligation that we need to support the partnership too with the school district as that rolls out, as well as with Cornell as that rolls out. We have a motion on the floor to approve 19.5, if you will, on the design with OPM, LBC. Ready to vote on that? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The application for Glen Street Extension, council action is needed. The application number 2. A lot of concrete got poured in the last 2 weeks.
Yes, it
in the
did.
nick of time.
So the good news is, before I get started, the pay application is in the amount of $216,469.71. Both Minish and Glen Street concrete is in. They have not, well, as of last Friday, had not poured around the manholes or done the storm sewer intakes. But the importance of just getting the streets in for access to CHI site is kind of paramount. That's why we push so hard to at least get the concrete down. Speaking of waiting list, that thing has a waiting list already. And it's only got one floor.
For residents?
For the 30 apartment residents, yes.
Wow.
Fabulous.
Okay.
I mean, it's not, I'm glad it's full, it's a bummer for the people on the wait list.
I know.
Yeah,
Wait
I
till
want
July.
I want to drive to the state and show them the waiting list, since they didn't think that we needed one here.
First request was from 45.
And again, Chris, this is 50 and over?
55.
55 and over.
Well, with that noted, I would move approval of pay application number 2 for the Glen Street project in the amount of $216,469.71.
Scott. Scott Mark. Move second to move forward with pay application number 2 on the Glen Street extension. And if there are no other comments or questions, ready to vote on that one, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to the Bryant Road Water Main Project.
This is actually a payoff in the amount of $4,969.66. This is the finish. Those 30 days have lapsed, and we can go ahead and finalize this project.
I'll move to approve, if there's nothing else, application number 2 for Bryant Road water main improvement, for $4,969.66.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark and Scott. Moved and seconded to move forward on pay application number 2 of the Bryant Road Water Main Project. None other comments or questions? Ready to vote on that? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the Uptown Streetscape Plan.
This is an invoice of $11,858.60. I will defer to Lori to give you kind of an update on when the rough draft of the master plan is going to be here.
Well, it was supposed to be here on Friday. No, but they are going to have it to me, hopefully by tomorrow is what I was told by JDO, so we'll have more information at the next council meeting.
So this invoice is dated September 17th, so it's 2 months old.
Um,
And also the monthly progress report is dated September 10th. So it's
Yes.
also 2.5 months
So
old.
somehow this was skipped. Nobody really knows if the email was ever sent or not sent, or we just missed it, but we skipped.
Okay,
this.
that's the reason.
So yes, valid
The dates.
point.
This doesn't have anything to do with the Uptown Lighting Project.
No.
I would move to approve the JEO invoice 154209 for the Uptown Streetscape Plan of $11,858.60.
Second?
Great, Stephanie. Motion on the floor to approve the Uptown Streetscape Plan, JDO invoice most recently. And if we have no other comments, questions, bring the vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The project coming to closure is the Fourth Street reconstruction project. Looking pretty good down there.
Yeah, we're,
Where is it?
I don't know if we're, it's just not easy to please or what.
Did those fixes happen this week?
So we had a final walkthrough on Friday, and we're awaiting some information back from the engineer. I wasn't happy with the compaction on the asphalt lane. Not consistently through, but there's patches where there's a little bit too much aggregate showing for my taste. And so the fix could be easy. But they may come and they may core the asphalt, test it and find that the compaction is just fine. We may let it go throughout our warranty period, which is over a year, and just see how it does in its first winter. I'm happy overall with the project. I just would have expected more like business 30 if you walk along that there's very little aggregate that is visible. And so more to come on this. I'm fine with this pay application moving forward. We have warranties. I'm not necessarily worried about that. We could look at doing some sort of slurry that would be kind of a sealant and be happy that way. But
And they know how you're feeling, so if you did end up going back to them in 6 months or something.
yeah, it's documented,
Already a huge surprise.
and everybody's well aware of what our concerns were. On another note, I was quite impressed with the amount of grass seed that they could get up. Not sure how they even managed to do
I
that.
mean, the
but-
road signs were kind
So they had some cleanup work that needed to be done. It was just a blanket. I've never really seen this. They only disturbed about 5 feet from the back of the curb. And they shot hydro seed 20 feet up sidewalks, 10 feet up a tree, and covered one of the street signs. So they had to come back in and wipe all of that out. I guess that's punishment enough for somebody on their staff to get punished.
Given that got taken care of, I will approve pay application number 2 for the 4th Street reconstruction project in a total of $235,939.38.
Seconded. Move seconded to move forward with the application number 2 on the Fourth Street reconstruction project. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the application number 2 on business 30 improvements, 240,000 plus.
Yeah, so this pay application, $240,541.63. I was extremely happy with the work that was done there. There was some painting issues that happened on the Lisbon side. So our side was good.
Worked out the kinks over there.
Yeah, just I think momentary lapse in judgment.
We've had our own painting issues.
Oh, yeah.
so let's not.
No, we definitely have, and I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't somewhat happy that my counterpart Brandon needs to deal with it over me.
Was that the entrance to the high school?
No, it's further east of him.
Further east?
Right before Casey's.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I would move approval of pay application number 2 for the business 30 improvements in the amount of $240,541.63.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take Craig on that one. That's Craig. It's moved and seconded to move forward with the application number 2 on the business 30 improvements. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the Highway 1 storm sewer camera project.
This pay application in the amount of $21,936.45. and then it's basically their project plan is the repaintage.
Questions?
Move to approve pay application number 1, Highway 1 Storm Sewer CCTV in the amount of $21,936.45.
Craig? Second. Mark. Move and second to move forward with the application number 1 on the storm sewer project on Highway 1. If we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. On the pool improvements, the application number 2.
This is in the amount of $236,438.90. Happy with the contractor, happy with the progress that's being made. I did say to you late last week that we are running up against some temperature changes. There's a sealant that needs to go in the basin of the pool. Mother Nature hates me. It needs to stop raining. Not only for it to be a dry surface, but there's water now seeping up through the basin that we have to try and figure out how to seal in order to get it sealing down. Good news is, if they can get that done this fall, there's a distinct possibility of us being open in time without too much failure. If they can't, they're looking at products that would reduce the cure time from 28 days to 8 days, but then we're back to being subject to Mother Nature, because if the concrete temperatures aren't high enough in April, or if the snow is still on the ground, if anything like that happens, that would prevent us from getting the sealant down, and the longer that it takes us to get the sealant down, then the waiting period, trying to fill the pool, getting it tested and being open on time is not as feasible. So just kind of a word of warning, I guess, at this point, that crossing our fingers on it yet. But,
Yep. Understood. I will move to approve pay application number 2 for the 2024 pool improvements in the amount of $236,438.90.
Is your second?
Second.
Scott. Move and second to move forward with the application number 2 on the pool improvements. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to change order number 2 on the pool improvements.
that's the one here.
Oh, that's it, right, okay. Moving to the application for the asphalt flooring and salt storage structure.
The next two are more FYI for you, but this pay app was in the amount of $5,390. It's already done. But salt's very corrosive. It's essentially eats away at the surface of concrete. It will start to cause it to pop and then break away. So the plan was on the new salt storage is to place a layer of asphalt on the floor to, elongate that structure.
Gotta admit, when I saw Eldon's pictures, that thought ran through my mind, like, isn't the salt gonna be on the concrete?
So, yeah.
With that, I will move to approve pay application for the asphalt flooring and salt storage structure for $5,390.
Stephanie, second.
Second.
And Mark. It's a good idea to ask Klusner to help do that. And that was good of them to come across town to do that. Motion on the floor to approve the asphalt flooring on the salt storage structure. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion consideration of John Deere loader tire purchases.
Again, another FYI, we had to go ahead and get these ordered in order to get them here in time for the snow to fly. We use the motor extensively during the winter months, but we were losing air in one of the tires frequently, and it's just been time. We've had that loader now for at least 6 years.
Actually, both rear tires have been, we've been having problems with both rear tires. Yeah. we use it daily. It's something.
Yep. Sounds pretty, yeah, sounds pretty necessary. So I'll go ahead and move to approve John Deere end loader tire purchase for the amount of $6,985.92.
And I'll second.
Mark and Scott. Motion on the floor to approve the John Deere in-order tire purchases. We're ready to vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, which I believe is reports. Police report. Anything to add?
Nothing additional unless you got questions.
Now, put in a plug for your talk on Thursday? Or is that from the report, I guess?
Yeah, Thursday we're doing an LBC emergency response, the police, fire, ambulance at the LBC for their monthly coffee talk there, basically. Whatever.
Comment, thank you to the officers for all of those community service events, and please let them know that. I think it's so important, especially for our kids, to learn to get to know the officers, to trust them, to respect them,
Absolutely,
and so thank you for doing that.
absolutely. That's the best part of the job.
Anything else for police? Public Works, anything for Eldon? Thanks for keeping up with leaves. Rain's probably not helping much, is it?
Last week, just trying to, no, wet leaves are harder to pick up, but, make heavy loads too, but last week we got the majority, majority of the leaves fell in, I think, in the last couple of weeks, and there's still piles out there now, but they're a lot easier to get to. There was a lot last
You did a
week.
fabulous job at my place. 3 times in 2 days, you guys came by. We just kept filling it up.
I told them just keep moving, because the sooner we get them picked up, the sooner we can move on to some other stuff.
We got weedy for a few days and then we'll the rest.
Yeah.
Are both units going?
We did, actually, and they fought me on that a little bit, but I said,
Whether it was needed?
well, they're like, well,
Yeah.
we'll be caught up by the end of the week. I said, I don't want to get caught up, I want to be done. So let's just keep moving, forward, and if there's piles, let's pick them up. And weather could change any time, so
Okay.
if we don't pick them up now, we pick them up in the spring.
I have another pile.
We'll be back over there.
I know.
Thanks for staying on it, Eldon. Mr. Siders, Parks and Rec, any questions? Mike?
Nothing to add, Steve. Any questions?
Anything from the library? Citizen's report, makes sense, I think? Yeah?
Yeah,
Always appreciate it.
yeah, and always nice to see the number of programs.
Discussion item, when I came back up for flag policy, this is towards the end of the year where we're going to address requests for additional flag inclusions for the next calendar year. So this is a discussion item, where are we at with that?
So you had stated, when you adopted this policy, that you would like to give it a year and then review where we're at. As I noted in my report, we had 2 requests. One didn't receive council support, so didn't even come forward for a vote. The second did, did not receive enough support to change or include it in the policy. So the policy that was created or sent to you is the one that you adopted a year ago. Lori has provided, you with a copy of all the various flags that get displayed throughout the year. I would say that outside of the fact that Lori does not like their flagpole, it's actually gone quite well.
I was gonna ask why.
Because I can't figure out how to do it, Stephanie.
To attach the flags or to actually raise
No,
them
just the whole
up?
mechanism to get
Oh,
it.
You're doing great, Lori, you're doing great.
I need a lot of emotional support with
I think one
that.
of the training session on that.
All of the rope tends to sit at the bottom of the flag and it will freeze, so it gets loose to get the flags up
try it and the weight falls on your finger and bruises it.
So do we need to
It's
get
a
a
learning
blow dryer
experience.
or
It is, so we moved, that was our original flagpole for City Hall. We moved that one over to this and then bought a new flagpole that was taller.
yeah.
So this is the old, more cumbersome unit.
So you guys have not, only to request.
Only 2 requests.
So just to clarify this conversation, this is let's put it on here to have, to talk about the policy. We're not necessarily saying, of these 2 requests, let's revisit either one specifically.
No, I think as a group collectively, you said that you wanted to review the policy at the end of the year and see if there were anything that you wanted to entertain as changes. If there are, this will be put back on the agenda under motions. If you do not, then it will just continue with the current flags.
Any discussion on that?
Well, I think it's necessary.
The discussion is.
Yeah, the discussion.
Agreed.
It is necessary. I mean, yeah, since one, was from vetoes and the reason given him wanted to wait a year. So we are at that point. So I believe if that warrants that. And then also just kind of a plan moving forward as to, is this going to be kind of an annual thing? We only want to look at it once a year? Or, I'm just kind of curious as to the mindset on that as well.
My initial thought was that because it was a brand-new policy and a bit more unusual policy for the city to take on, that it was a good idea to revisit it after 1 year and see how it was sitting with all of us. There are lots of policies that we've approved or other councils have approved that aren't revisited every year, in fact, the vast majority. And I would say that, as far as I'm concerned, that we probably don't have to revisit this policy every year as well. However, that being said, since this is the end of the first year, yes, let's have the discussion and then let's see how we're feeling about it. And we can go back and revisit if we choose to, but probably not.
I think, speaking, kind of elaborating on what Councilperson Anderson commented on, the denial of the one consideration that was brought forward was essentially vetoed because we wanted to give it 1 year. So at this point moving forward, I'm assuming that you will reintroduce that addition, and I have not heard of, outside of those 2, I have not had anybody address or submit a request for action to consider anything additional.
You're correct, that was basically for the veto, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will reintroduce that. And also, because it was made to, want to be fair to any citizens as well, that that's the reason, it was stated and put in the newspaper, and, that we are going to look at it after the year. So perhaps that may have held some people back from, perhaps and perhaps not, from offering another flag for consideration too, for the end of the year too. So perhaps somebody might want to come out at the end of the year also, at that meeting as well. So I think we need to be at least ready to hear somebody in case they bring something forward that day also.
I think at some point, I will say this, if you choose to potentially look at this policy for an amendment or inclusion of additional commemorative flags, so there's 11 for those in the audience, but the very last subset B, where it's talking about other flags, that's where it really specifies how you can request a review by the city council. I made this statement before. As a point of policy, I look at this as purely a council decision. I will not entertain flag requests I don't see the necessity to leave for the city manager within item D, because
It's not a staff decision.
no, I don't believe so. I don't think it's fair. I think if we would continue to direct individuals that wanted to make a request to a city council member or the mayor, and allow them to determine whether or not it is something that they wanted to move forward. I don't know that staff should necessarily be involved.
Well, and I'm sure that as a citizen, you could bring it up to one of us also, if you felt that was necessary.
Yeah, I think, I always look at it, you pay me to run day-to-day operations, you don't pay me to establish policy, that's your job. So, as a matter of me being in there, I made the statement at the very beginning that I was not going to do this, and to clarify things for me, if we did decide to, consider an amendment, I would probably make that recommendation at that time, that section be amended as well, just to remove the city manager, but other than that, the policy, I think, has been operating just fine. I don't believe we've had a significant outcry on anything that has been displayed.
Yeah, I reread it, and I feel good about it, so, and I agree with the change that you're suggesting, I think that's fair.
And then just kind of close it up too, so after this, and like I said, it doesn't seem like there's been much asked from, by the citizens, but if something was to pop up and say it was in, July, would we, now that it's been that year, would we be able to put forward something so it would be addressed in July as opposed to waiting till the end of the year?
A flag request to
Yes, a flag request.
I would, as far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay.
I think we address it.
Okay, cool. Just so we're all on the same page. Sounds good.
Any other discussion about this item other than taking out on item D, your title?
No, I think if there aren't necessarily outside of just that one specific change, I would wait until you received a request. I don't want to open an amendment to this policy just to remove that. I'm just not going to.
But as part of another change, it would be.
If there is another change that is warranted or requested, then I would probably have you consider them both at the same time, but expecting that that request for Jewish American Month will be coming back some way.
That's good.
I did want to note, I think the one complication, and Lori talked about this at the very beginning, is not all of these causes have approved flags. So she spent an entire week making phone calls to the various organizations to find out what they would prefer flowing. And then most of these, I would say at least 50% or 60% of these flags are custom.
Yeah.
Because you can't just order them. So that's a consideration too.
And that would take time, how long do they take to come in?
They were the custom ones, about 2 to 3 weeks to
Okay.
get them here. I mean, it's not portable.
They're not typically the same quality or material that you get in the state or US flag, so you probably only get maybe a year or two, depending on how long they're up. If they're up for the entire month or just a couple of days.
Right.
That's a brutal one.
Yes.
When they,
There's a few that are going to need to be replaced before they get flown again.
Any other discussion on this topic right now?
Nope. We need to set a date or...
I think from here on out, if you have a request for another, you can just make that request, and it would just go to the next council meeting.
We'll go on to reports, mayor's report. Couple things. First of all, Clear Trails Association, being more engaged in that with regard to the urban trail, and in the most recent newsletter from this month, They have, as far as the capital campaign fundraising projects, the urban trail is number 1 on that list, so I don't know if you guys get this or all, but you're welcome to take a look at this. But it's still out there, we need to keep still talking about that. Second thing was, I got invited to a water conservation, soil conservation actually, project at Tim Keegan's farm, south of town, with the Lynn County Conservation, and engaged there with several supervisors, several state representatives, and so on, and one of the mayors. So it was good to engage with that rural population that we don't directly impact, have a direct impact with them, but water quality is important for everybody. So I'm glad I went, and they were very appreciative that there were any members there. So I did catch that at the Robert Brewing Farm, south of Mount Vernon. And Doug's already talked about his LBC talk. I think I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about his report, and hopefully we'll talk about AI and urban insurance survey.
So, a few things. Number one, city offices closed Thanksgiving holiday, that's the 28th and 29th. The 27th, we'll have a kickoff to Thanksgiving potluck here. We do a quarterly employee gathering, so you're always invited. Just like to tell you when those dates are. Pre-construction meeting for the LBC generator project will be Wednesday, November 20th. Excited to get that ordered. Leaf back program, we already kind of talked about it a little bit, but that's scheduled to go through Thanksgiving, and then if the weather hasn't stopped us by then, it's typically time to get the trucks ready for snow. And then I will be participating on the 20th as well at a transportation small town in rural Iowa panel. This is being put on by the Mount Vernon-Lisbon unit of youth voters here at City Hall. Two other things that aren't on this report. The Iowa League of Cities released a survey last week or the week before, asking for staff input, basically city input on changes that have been made to the property tax system, what the limitations have done or not done in your community. I will say that we weathered the storm fairly well last year, but I do not expect that to happen again this year. I am expecting cuts. I'm expecting cuts to some of the asks that get received. And we'll be curtailing some part-time staffing that we've been able to take advantage of. But now that they've given us more time to do the budget, we're getting our budget numbers a lot later, so I can't really even get started. We'll start putting CIP and initial requests together for the holiday season, but we don't typically get the new valuations until January 1. That really kind of tells us where we're sitting as far as what has been requested and so on. I had forewarned everybody not to ask for additional outside of what's already been established by a contractor or something of that nature. But the survey was quality. I know that Iowa League City is going to compile that information and obviously use it in their conversations with the state legislature this year. See how it goes. Not super excited about it, we'll see. The second thing is the use of AI has been a topic that has come up a lot as of late. Lori has been exploring AI options for the community. We've been discussing with other cities how they use it, both internally and externally. In Pittsburgh, I had one of my city manager colleagues more or less tell me that if you're not using AI, you're wasting taxpayer dollars. So I had been reluctant to dip toes into the AI spectrum too much just because there was, along with use, came a lot of ethics-related questions. I think a lot of that has been discussed to the point where I think we are comfortable moving forward.
I've been dealing
exploring-
with.
she was exploring with the mayor right before we came up here, and you give it like 10 buzzwords and, tell you to spit out a letter in it.
Ask her a question about getting an Arbor Day proclamation. She had to print it out in a minute. And,
Yeah, and I'm.
I love that you had it printed out.
yes.
I know. Sorry. This should have been an inside one, that was me.
Yes, Scott, you got a problem with that?
Clearly, I figured we didn't.
No, I was gonna say, I use it at work, and Copilot with Teams to summarize meetings is amazing. And it does improve the more you use it. Now, I would never take it at face value and just go off and run with it. You have to look it over, but.
It's a good base.
And I'm, as a professional project manager, when I go to project management meetings, they've talked about how, sometimes you might spend 2 hours writing detailed notes
Exactly.
over a conversation, and if you can cut that down to 10 to 20 minutes, that's an amazing time savings. So I would encourage you guys to look into that, at least that part of it. And then we were concerned about security as well. We have a Microsoft reseller that we work with daily. And, from the Copilot and Microsoft perspective, we're feeling much better about it containing data within the enterprise. So, agree with that.
Thanks for your input there. Any other committee reports, comments from?
I had one other thing, just to update you, as of this morning, we were 89% complete with the water meter replacement. The goal is somewhere between 92 and 95%. The reality with these types of projects is 100%, for the most part, out of reach. Some people will have to do some plumbing work in order to facilitate the meter change out. So we aren't going to get to 100, but I think we will be somewhere in the 92 to 95% complete by Thanksgiving. So we're happy about the progress there. Working on a few things to make the switch, move to the software that will allow us to obviously read these. I believe the week of Thanksgiving they will go ahead and turn it on and see, make sure that all the wiring is working and that the meters themselves are talking to the antenna into the system. So.
Two more quick things. Next Child Care Solutions Group is this Friday meeting here. And I think that's about it. Any other things that need to come before this group? Not then. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. I'll be there. Thank you. I got the information.